All right, guys, happy Halloween. For those of you that celebrate Halloween, boy, oh boy, do I have a spooky story for you. And of course, it is pertaining to Kamala's genealogy, you guys. I am just swimming in a sea of things that I just cannot believe. It's just a sea of disbelief. We have more explosive revelations regarding Oscar Harris. We have been obviously focused on his family tree from the very beginning, and I don't even want to make you guys wait, so let's get right into it. Welcome back to Candace. All right, guys, Donald Harris, he has always been problematic, and so has his father. His father, allegedly, his full name is Oscar Wilde Brown Joseph Harris. That honestly should have been the first red flag. How many names can one man have? I'm just showing you guys a photo of Mr. Oscar Wilde Brown Joseph Harris. And in Kamala's book, reminding you that she said that when she was 10 months old, she visited Spanish Town, Jamaica. And this was her with her mother and her paternal grandfather. This photo is her with them. And Oscar Joseph is what she refers to him as in the book, which would be his middle name. Okay. So allegedly, that guy has always been problematic because he's allegedly the person that got with Beryl, who we could not find a photo of, but then we were able to determine that the Beryl that Kamala showed us in her book was not Beryl. This was a faked grandma. So again, just getting very problematic in that part of the family tree. Donald, problem. Dad Oscar, problem. His alleged lover, Beryl, a problem. His alleged mother, this is Oscar Harris's alleged mother, Christiana, a problem. It's like everyone in this family tree is made up, just made up. So yesterday we introduced to you guys a problem regarding the fact that we were able to find Oscar Brown, allegedly that's his birth name, right, in various obituaries, which would seemingly confirm that he was in fact a part of the Hamilton Brown family tree, which is what Donald asserts in his piece, Jamaica Global Online, that Christiana Brown was a descendant of the slaver Hamilton Brown. And finding Oscar Brown in these various obituaries was a good thing because you were like, okay, at least he's here. It makes sense. If these are your aunts and uncles, you would be at their funerals. And he was listed as the pallbearer, but we were confused by the fact that in these various obituaries, he's also listed as a first cousin. And that's weird because, and this is just an example, this is Edwin C. Brown's obituary. It's weird that he is being listed as a first cousin because, well, he's supposed to be the nephew. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they didn't make a mistake. I don't know. I don't feel like these are the sorts of mistakes that are being made. It just seems like this is a very shady family. More shady things were, well, the fact that we found out about his very long lifetime marriage with Vioris Cambridge, who Kamala had a very close lifelong relationship with, but whom she completely failed to mention throughout her entire book, throughout her entire career, throughout her many speeches. She's just like Xing out family members that she was close to. So what gives? What gives? Well, we know that the Harris family tree has extremely close ties to Canada that we have never been able to explain. We've never been able to explain why it seems that every relative we find cycles through Canada at some point. I told you that we had that woman who reached out on the other side of the Harris family and said, confirmed that she shared a great-grandfather with Kamala Harris. She herself was living in Canada and asserted to us that they were Syrian Jews. And I'm just going, what is this Canadian connection? Then we know Kamala obviously did a large portion of her schooling in Canada. The Harris family is somehow connected to Canada. There is no question regarding that. So there's Jamaica, there's Canada, and there's America. That's where they seem to all be cycling through, which is why an email that I received yesterday caught my attention. It was a relatively short email. I'm going to show it to you. This is it in its entirety. The person just wrote, hey, these documents are from Family Search, a 1931 census. Wealth allowed for travel. And of course, quote, I grew up a middle-class kid. That's all the person said. And they attached a document. And so my immediate instinct, I just saw the beginning of that, just like you're seeing it, is all I saw on my phone. It says Oscar Harris, a male, 17 years old, birthplace, Ontario, Canada. And it said he's born in 1914. Well, that checks out. Oscar Joseph Harris, I'm not going to dismiss this because he was indeed born in 1914. If there is a census record that says that Oscar Joseph Harris is 17 years old in 1931, that would make sense. And look, there could be more Oscar Joseph Harrises. That's not something that I'm closing my mind to, but I'm just noting that actually, in all of our research, truly, this would be the first time that I've seen his last name in his youth. Okay, because we just keep seeing Brown. He was Oscar Brown, Oscar Brown, Oscar Brown, Paul Barrow, Oscar Brown, Oscar Brown, Oscar Brown. And then magically at some point, we're supposed to believe that he just became Oscar Joseph Harris. What's even more odd is that he was Oscar Wilde Brown. So I'm going in my mind, I'm like, I can't even remember, we've looked at so many documents. Have we even seen a birth certificate for Oscar Wilde Brown Joseph Harris? So I texted my producer last night asking that question. I'm like, hey, did we ever get a birth certificate for Oscar Harris? And he says, yeah, we did. And he sends me one, which we've shown on the show, and it's from St. Anne, Jamaica. But this birth certificate is for Oscar Wilde Brown. Okay. We see that it's signed by a Lydia Brown, and it's in 1914. It says it's in the 5th of April, 1914 in Orange Hill, St. Anne. That's the correct area. And it's Oscar Wilde Brown. So I text him back and I'm like, when did this guy become Joseph Harris? Is that like a weird thing? And shockingly, we missed this, probably because we've been looking at way too many documents. But apparently he took on that name when he was 36 years old. And then he went back to the registrar's office and he had them manually update his birth certificate to reflect that change. In 1950, this is a close-up. It says Oscar Joseph Harris. They just put that under a baptismal name. He's just going to decide that on this day and on December 12th of 1950, at the ripe age of 36, that he's now Oscar Joseph Harris, whole new name. Let me tell you something, I'm a Christian. That's not how baptisms work. You don't get to just pick a whole new last name and a whole new entire name simply because you get baptized. And least of all, would you expect somebody to do that who is male, and somebody to do that who is male at the age of 36, who's had their entire life under a different name, Oscar Wilde Brown. So what is this? I'm going, what is this? Is it possible? And now I'm taking you guys through my thoughts, okay? I'm taking you guys through my thoughts. I'm going, is it possible that Oscar Wilde Brown was this person who existed and lived in Jamaica, okay, who was in fact the first cousin of Edwin Harris and of Mabel Harris, and who was the pallbearer in his early 20s when his first cousins died? Is it plausible that that is a real person? And then this Oscar Harris guy maybe finds out this guy dies and decides to just like take on his life. It's just like, find me an Oscar who like lived and died, who was born in 1914. And the reason my mind is going here, and I'll be honest, that's conspiracy land, is because we've never been able to locate Donald Harris's birth certificate. But we very oddly did find a Donald Harris who lived and died, who was born allegedly the same year in the same place in Jamaica in 1938, a Donald Jasper Harris who died 2 years later. So we found one and we haven't been able to find this one. Like, is this a case where you're just kind of taking lives? That's crazy. That's crazy. So I said, let's just take this one step at a time. This doesn't confirm anything, but it is highly suspicious. I don't know anybody who just changes their entire first and last name, middle name and last name, as if they got married when they simply got baptized. And by the way, in speaking with his direct family members, because I ran this question by them, they're like, no, he never changed his name. He was always Oscar Harris. So I'm going, what do you mean he was always Oscar Harris? And then I give them the document and I'm like, no, he wasn't. He wasn't always Oscar Harris. And now they're starting to go, what do I actually know about this very close family member of mine who was born before me? Okay, so when even the family members are going, what is this document? What do you mean he just changed his name to Oscar Harris in 1951 at the age of 36? This, of course, breeds more questions. So I say, let's slow down. Let's slow down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. In fact, I'm already way ahead of myself. And I'm going, pull it back, Candace, pull it back, okay? So I go, let's just focus on this Canadian document. Let's look at this Canadian document in its entirety. And I'm going to show you this document, okay? And it is a census, and it is indeed from 1931, and it is from British Columbia. Specifically, it is from Nova Scotia. And you can see highlighted there in yellow, you have Oscar listed in the household, and you might not be able to see this. It might be a little too far for you to see. Oh, actually, just kidding. I have a great editor who decided to zoom in on it. But the patriarch of the household, who's listed as the head, is what appears to me to be Daniel Harris. Now, that could be a G, that could be an L. On this website, it has it listed as Daniel C. Harris, okay? And also, what's remarkably interesting about this Daniel C. Harris, I'm just going, let me just debunk this. That's easy. Let me find this Oscar Harris, this Daniel Harris, and find this family and find a picture and go, oh, no, this is another one who lived in Canada, had nothing to do with anything. You know, he was just trying to feed his family before World War II. And curiously enough, in the professional column, he's listed as a master mariner. Now, for those of you who are like me, not that interested in ship vessels, not that interested in learning about the maritime order, not that interested at all in what happens out at sea. Sorry, I hate to be a stereotype here and be a woman. I did have to look this up. I said, what is a master mariner? Maybe there are some fellas out there who don't know this either, but men tend to like all that stuff. The definition in the Royal Navy, the British Royal Navy, the master was the person that was in charge of the ship and the mariners during the Middle Ages. The master was appointed by the Council of the Marine and was responsible for sailing the ship as directed by the captain. The captain was responsible for fighting the ship when engaged by an enemy. But a master mariner is a professional seafarer who is qualified to command any ship of any size and in any part of the world. So you're like the top dog. You are just like the top G of the waters, okay? That's just what they're responsible for, all sorts of things of the ship: navigation, planning, safety, administrative tasks, personnel, you name it. And they could just throw you on any type of ship and you just know what to do, okay? And it takes a lot to get to that classification. So I'm like, well, that's great, because we know that the Brits kept very good records. Of course, now we're talking about the British Royal Navy. He's a master mariner. We're going to find this guy in 3 seconds. But we couldn't find this guy. Not in 3 seconds, not in 4 seconds, not in 5 seconds, not in 12 hours. Okay, I've been looking for this Daniel Harris, who should be very easy to locate because we know what year he purports that he is a master mariner. Just couldn't find him at all. Okay. We were able, however, and I'm talking about finding him in like documents, British Royal Navy documents. We were able, however, to identify 2 potential individuals who would match this description. Again, a master mariner in Nova Scotia at this exact time, a part of the British Royal Navy. We found one website and we found a man that was listed as one of the United Kingdom's honorable company of master mariner website. There's a whole website dedicated to the Honorable Company of Master Mariners. And the majority of the website, I'm only showing you a glimpse, by the way, every Duke, Prince Charles, every single one of them is on this. If you keep scrolling down, you find King Philip. It's like crazy. But the only one that we could find that had the last name Harris doesn't have a picture. And there's only like 5 people on this website. It's a very small club. It doesn't have a picture. And we have Deputy Master Captain J.W. Harris, R&R Extra Master. I mean, he's just like the master to the extreme. And yet there's no photo available of him on this website or anywhere else, okay? Or anywhere else. He's in the small club, a small club with kings and dukes and princes, and yet we cannot find a picture of this J.W. or any other documents pertaining to this J.W. Harris, okay? But you'll note that date says 1945. This guy we know was the mariner in 1931, so it's a lead, and it ended nowhere for us. We couldn't find anything on J.W. Harris. If you can find something, please send it to us, okay? So then we said, okay, let's just look for a list of all master mariners in Canada, because again, it's a pretty small club. Like, we don't have to crawl through a ton of indexes and go through thousands of pages. It's a very small club of people who have achieved master mariner status, particularly in Nova Scotia. And we were able to find one person on this very short list who fit the description in terms of the time that he was a master mariner. We learned from a document that this guy retired in 1937, so he was a master mariner through 1931. But this guy's name is neither Daniel C. Harris or J.W. Harris. It's Charles Israel Harris, okay? And we're able to find Charles Israel Harris easily on an ancestry website. Okay, we find him, we pull him up. It's like, this is his wife. His wife's name is Paquita Harris. I'm like, oh, Paquita, like what? Maybe Paquita is Cuban. What do we know about Paquita? Paquita, you know, Oscar looks like he's got a little bit of color. Is he Cuban? Or am I about to find out that Oscar Harris is Cuban? Kamala's Cuban. She's even potentially more Marxist than we could ever imagine. Is she like Fidel Castro's daughter? I don't know. I'm all over the place. I'm going crazy. But then it was weird because no matter how many times we looked for Charles Israel Harris, and this was when we started going, okay, let's start looking through newspapers and crawling through, we couldn't get a hit on this guy. And yet it says he has all these kids. The last child died in 1992. None of these children, we can't find them in obituaries. And out of 6 of the children that he and Miss Paquita Harris had, none of those kids had grandchildren. So the line just dies very quickly. It's all getting very weird, okay? It's very weird. But again, we're just starting the search. We've been starting the search since like last night to now. So it's not thorough enough for us to conclude conclusively that they did not have any grandchildren. Perhaps they did. We just weren't able to locate them. And so I'm going, okay, what am I missing here? Let me just look up Charles Harris. I'm going to look up every single hit like a psycho and see if I can find a Charles Harris hit. Forget the Israel in Nova Scotia. Give me something, Canada. And by golly, I get a hit for a man that died when he was 101 years old, and it is our guy. Except his middle name is now not Israel. It's not Israel. I don't know what happened. He changed his name, and his middle name is Isador. Here's the obituary for Charles Isador Harris. Man, this guy lived a long life. It says, there you have it, a mariner dies at 101. It says a retired mariner who arrived in Victoria by schooner around Cape Horn died Monday at 101, like the age, 101 years old. Captain Charles Isador Harris, don't know what happened to his middle name Israel, lived with his daughter Margaret at 1770 Lansdowne Road. He is survived by 4 sons, his daughter, and 4 grandchildren. So it's saying he has grandchildren. We can't locate these people. He was born in, I'm sorry, Canadians that might say Cabarrus or Gabarus Bay in Cape Breton Island. And by his late teens, he had been a sailor, a mate, and held a temporary master's certificate. Captain Harris was 22 when he came to Victoria from Nova Scotia, sailing on the schooner Sapphire around the Horn. The trip took 8 months from June 6, 1887 to February 14, 1888. Settling in Victoria, he married Paquita Cox, the daughter of Captain Graham Cox, the owner of the Sapphire and 2 other vessels. Captain Harris served on 2 sealing schooners. I think they meant to write sailing. Maybe it's sealing schooners. The Maybelle and the Mary Turner. For some time, he captained the salvage tug Salver and then became the BC Coast pilot. In 1926, he piloted the Hood, the largest British battleship afloat into Victoria. For his pilot work, Captain Harris received a citation from the Royal Navy. He retired in 1937. So this is our guy. During his sailing years, Captain Harris learned to speak Japanese, Greek, French, Spanish, and Chinook. In 1965, he celebrated the 75th anniversary of his initiation in the Vancouver Lodge number 2 AF and AM at a special ceremony. Oh my gosh, this guy was a Freemason. Okay. This can't just be every time. What was a special ceremony that you were doing when you were 75, Charles Isador, maybe Israel? Did you get baptized too, Charles? Did you get baptized when you were 36 and you took on a whole new middle name away from Charles Israel, which is what your maritime records reflect? Your maritime records say Charles Israel. Now you're dead. You're Charles Isador. How many times can we change our name? Guys, he's not the only one who changed his name. Because so did Paquita. Paquita, the woman that I thought was Cuban, her name, we were actually able to come across his marriage record to her, and her name is actually Rebecca. Rebecca at some point became Paquita. Charles Israel at some point became Charles Isadora. Oscar Harris at some point became Oscar Wilde Brown, or Oscar Wilde Brown became Oscar Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what is going on. This is the marriage certificate. I cannot make this up. He got married to Rebecca Cox. Not Paquita. Who is Paquita? And you guys are wondering why Kamala Harris just puts on all of these different personalities. Look at this family tree, potentially. By the way, we still have to be able to confirm whether or not this could not be David C. Harris. Maybe there's another David C. Harris. But every time I look up a Harris, it just seems like the Harrises out there just change their names all the time. Maybe you're watching this and you're a Harris and you're completely unrelated. Have you changed your name? Because I find that to be problematic. I just cannot. I cannot with this. And you know what it makes me think of? because we're still obviously needing to investigate this, and we may not be able to find Daniel C. Harris, but I'm telling you, there's not a lot of master maritime people, and we can only find these two. We can only find Charles Israel or Charles Isidore, Vaquita, Bonita, Spanishita. I don't know what's going on, but now I understand why Kamala just be out here, like, just putting on different personalities. I get it. I finally get it, where her personality potentially comes from. But what this makes you think of? There used to be, not used to be, I guess there are people that subscribe to this, and I don't even want to call it a conspiracy theory. It's a theory, okay? It's a theory that's out there that I've never explored. That's better than calling it a conspiracy theory, because I don't know. But people believe that there are these bloodlines, like these ancient royal bloodlines, and that people that are from these bloodlines are always the people that are elected into positions of power, and that it is because of our own ignorance about genealogy that we don't realize that power keeps being handed to the exact same families. That was kind of the thought process that I had as I was looking at this, and suddenly I'm like looking at royal British naval intelligence Freemasonry. I'm going, how? I was just trying to prove that she was a little Irish for Janet Jackson. How did we get here? I'm so scared. It's so spooky. We're going to have to leave you on that note. If you guys are good at researching, jump into this. Look up Daniel C. Harris, Daniel I. Harris, Daniel J. Harris. Maybe he took on a different name, but I am telling you, master maritime people, there just aren't a lot of them. So I hope that you guys are able to come across some documents that may help us as we continue this search. All right, guys, if you want to have a deeper prayer life and you don't know where to start, I totally get that. And so does Hallow, which is why I'm excited to tell you about Hallow's new prayer challenge, How to Pray. Hallow's new prayer challenge will take you through short daily sessions over the next 2 weeks with an all-star lineup of spiritual leaders and guests, giving you all of the essentials to create a rich prayer life. They'll teach you how to pray through scripture, how to do imaginative prayer, how to incorporate prayers that have been around for centuries, and so much more. You'll get a new guide every day, and some of the guides include Father Mike Schmitz, Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus in The Chosen, Mark Wahlberg, and many others. The only way we can get through these crazy times is by setting first things first, which is getting closer to God, and prayer is the best way to do that. So download the Hallow app for 3 months free at hallow.com/Candace. Again, that's hallow.com/Candace. All right, the world is all speaking about JD Vance because he recently went on Rogan. It's nice to see JD Vance doing something like this. It's always nice to see somebody on Joe Rogan because the conversation is different than the conversations that we've come to expect when they are faced with a mainstream media pundit who is just trying to make them look stupid or trying to make them look horrific. And so it's nice to see the people relax and talking about a variety of topics. And obviously the left is super upset with this sit down because they went in on what has been termed, I really think it was termed by Elon Musk, the woke mind virus. Take a listen to JD Vance and Joe Rogan discussing that.
It really does behave like a religion, but it's a religion without like a good doctrine.
Yes.
It's a religion that hasn't been thought out by wise people.
That's right.
Where they haven't come up with these different, like the Ten Commandments or different pathways to
Correct.
to forgiveness. There's nothing. So it's this thing that behaves like a religion, but it's not really well thought out, and it's very illogical. And it also combines pharmaceutical drug companies and all. There's a lot of other weird that's attached to this religion.
Yes.
That you kind of need. Like if you're gonna do this whole woke thing and like go guns a-blazing, you're gonna have to get drugs involved. Like you're gonna have to. They're gonna have to do hormone blockers. It's like it doesn't just happen on its own. And that somehow or another is natural to them. Like this is how you be your true self. Like your true self is you add hormones that aren't supposed to be in your body. That's your
crazy.
True self. Like how do you know?
Right.
And it's irreversible. Are we sure this is?
Yeah. And by the way, instead of your true self being, maybe I should be skeptical of some of the crap that I'm putting into my body, I should lean into the idea that I should put more foreign things into the human body. That's what to me is so fascinating about it, is the true self. Like, I think all of us, that's sort of part of the human journey for truth. We're all asking, who are we?
Right.
What is our true self? And maybe we should be asking ourselves, this is sort of more of a Bobby Kennedy point, but why are we putting all this weird crap into our food, into our water? Maybe we should be a little bit more skeptical, like my body is a temple, rather than I'm going to welcome even more pharmaceutical intervention into the human body. It's very interesting how some religions view the body as a temple and some religions almost invite the pollution. I think the woke thing is inviting the pollution.
Yeah, well, I mean, simply stated, it's so empowering to hear people finally speaking about big pharma just so freely and so openly. It was such a taboo when I was saying when I first got started in politics that I was anti-vax and I didn't support vaccines and I knew I was never going to vaccinate my children. And now it's just not taboo at all because you see it's being discussed mainstream in a way like it has never been discussed before. I mean, you were just rendered an anathema if you had a different opinion and didn't like worship the altar of scientism and Dr. Fauci. But what they're really describing and what they're getting at here, and it's funny as we talk about ancient bloodlines and people not knowing their ancestry and now realizing how important ancestry is, because if you had sort of an evil family, it's been around forever, and they keep their bloodline intact while they're moving everybody else around and you don't know where you come from or why you're in this country or who's moved around, and you've got open borders, it gives them a lot of power because you can't even trace them back to the beginning of time. What's the beginning of time? The Bible, right? What are they actually minting? The Church of Satan. What are they fighting against? The natural order, otherwise known as the Church of God. They're fighting against the Bible every regard, and that's why I say it's so important, even if you don't deem yourself to be religious, man, get into the Bible because that's your story. So like, do you care about ancestry? Like, there you go. Are you enjoying this series? Do you care about ancestry? Are you finding it interesting? Are you starting to wonder like maybe the Bible's telling the truth and there are these tribes of people who were Canaanites and people that were evil and who practiced pedophilia and child sacrifice. Like maybe the Bible is that, and those same people have worked really hard to get the Bible removed from the classroom and have worked really hard to make sure that you were an atheist that wouldn't go to church or believe in God. Yeah, giving you a little nudge here, guys. If you anything, read the Bible as if it's a historical document, and you might start realizing some things. And yes, it is just a complete inversion of the natural order. They want the unnatural order. They want people to hate their bodies. They don't want men and women to come together. They want men to think that they can be women, women to think that they can be men. And we are seeing so many people sacrifice their lives on the altar of this satanic church. So it's refreshing to hear them talk about that. And they went even deeper, discussing polio, which is always a hot topic when you talk about big pharma. Take a listen.
That's
so
a good Alex Jones impersonation.
It's an AP article that shows that they had to stop giving these kids in Africa this polio vaccine because it was actually giving them polio.
That's crazy.
Like, because they experiment, because this is how they find out if stuff works. So you get people with no internet connection, they live in dirt floors. We're going to help you. And then they come in and they experiment on them. And it's so dark.
That is so dark,
and then it's all done through this idea of philanthropy.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's crazy, and they profit off of it. The whole thing is madness. And because they have so much influence and so much power and so much money is being generated, they're allowed to get away with these things.
Just think about like that from the perspective of these poor people. I mean, I assume the polio vaccine thing happened in Africa, or did it happen somewhere else? Okay, so you're in Africa. Some white dude shows up, says that he cares about you, gives you a shot that's going to, prevent you from getting some disease, and then you become like permanently disabled or you even die because of it. Like, think about what effect that has on how those Africans perceive our civilization. And are we going to have, are they going to we're going to have a conflict in 30, 40 years because people are so pissed off about us coming in and giving them health care that isn't actually health care. I really worry about that stuff. I mean, this is one of my big things with the Russia-Ukraine conflict is people don't realize how much of Africa's food supply comes from the Ukraine, like an astonishing amount. So if you have this war that goes on forever and there's not enough food going to Africa, are you going to have a bunch of starving, desperate people who are like pissed off because they're starving, who hate European civilization because they don't have, they're not getting the food that they were expecting to get. Like, we never think about the knock-on effects of this stuff, right? Yeah, it's really dark and really evil that we're giving them polio. I also wonder, the people who live in the village that got polio, what the hell are they going to be doing in 30 years? They're probably going to hate us.
Yeah, maybe if we just let people alone and people learned how to farm their own land and weren't relying on things from people all the way in Ukraine, that's one way to look at it. And look, the other thing that's incredible here is just how ignorant people are on the history of vaccines in general. And I'm so happy they're speaking about, and that Joe Rogan is speaking about, how they went out and they experimented because they knew that there wouldn't be regulations if they went out to Africa and they were able to experiment on Africans. It's a fact. And I can't wait until next year because beyond my anti-vaccine series, which I'll be putting up on my own platform so that I don't have to worry about it being banned here, I also dug deep into the history of birth control. And it's even darker. as dark or darker than the history of vaccines, in terms of the lies and the experimentation on Africans, which he's speaking about, and the rich families that were involved in this, and they knew that it was making them infertile. The history of the Depo-Provera shot is just absolutely stunning. It's stunning. And you look at it now, and that choice of birth control is majority given to Spanish and African women in America. And it's just all in your face. And that's what it really is about. The game of the left is they kind of want to keep you focused on the present, focused on now, and they want to make sure that you don't know any history. Not even history from like the 1970s and the 1980s. That is why there's this constant distraction. There's so much materialism. People don't even have an attention span long enough to listen to a podcast nowadays. It's like, what can you get it down to in 5 minutes and distribute it on TikTok? And actually TikTok is really more like 1 to 2 minutes. And that's because they don't want you to even have a capacity to sit down and know your own ancestry, to know your own history, to understand what happened, and understand why you shouldn't trust these very same organizations that are demanding that you listen to them. And unfortunately, I always have time for a little bit of research. I will always make time to research genealogy, the history of vaccines, the history of polio, the public poisoning which took place regarding DTT. If you go to my X feed, by the way, I was going to include it in today's episode because they tried to community note me when I talked about how they diagnostically changed the definition of polio so that people would believe it was almost like an illusion that they eradicated polio. And actually, the Daily Mail did an article which was entitled "Children Are Sprayed with Dangerous Pesticide DDT." I linked it onto my X, so you guys can find that. But it tells a story, the very true story in 1940s America, when they were telling everybody to spray themselves, their children, their crops, and their animals with DDT before they realized that actually it's a poison that paralyzes you. At this exact same time, there was an outbreak of polio. And wouldn't you be so surprised to learn that polio got eradicated after they stopped poisoning? Even the animals were becoming paralyzed because of DDT poisoning. If you go look up DDT and you look up what that is and what that substance does when it's mass introduced to your body, it quite literally causes temporary paralysis. And so it's all of these changed definitions and changing diagnostic definitions, and people just believing in legends that are told to them, sold to them by the very same people who poisoned them. Big Pharma now saying to you, oh, we eradicated polio. No, how about you apologize and admit that you mass poisoned children and mass poisoned animals and mass poisoned apples with DDT because you didn't want ticks and fleas. Until you accept that, I don't believe anything that you say. Anyways, we can now have these conversations because you saw what they did during COVID. Oh, the COVID numbers are this. Change the diagnostic definition. Okay, lower this, lower the machines, and this accounts as polio. Okay, now none of that counts for polio. This is the power that Big Pharma has always had. They control the definitions, the statistics, how they measure things, and the definitions. Anyways, I'm getting on a shot in the dark rant, and I don't need to, but when I saw that, it really made me think about things. And I'm just really happy that we're getting into a place in society where we can have these conversations and people don't run and go, oh my God, it's a conspiracy and you're trying to kill me. They're starting to ask questions about what exactly it is the government is trying to do to them. All right, guys, I want to tell you about PDS debt. No one wants to think about debt, but the hard truth of it is many of us will get deeper into debt during the holidays. Last year, half of American consumers took on debt to pay for the holidays. It's never too early to start planning to get out of debt, and my friends at PDS Debt can help with a personalized solution just for you. So if you're making payments every month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, PDS has solutions for you. Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies, and there is no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit are accepted. Save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. Start planning today. Get a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/Candace. It only takes 30 seconds. That's PDSdebt, pdsdebt.com/Candace. Again, pdsdebt.com/Candace. All right, guys, Mark Cuban is under some fire. I don't know what's happening in the last stretch. There's kind of like everybody's dumb and garbage and stupid if you support Trump. I think that's kind of what they're getting at. And Mark Cuban went on The View and basically had a message for women that support Trump. So everybody's garbage, but women, we got an extra special message for you if you're supporting Trump. Take a listen to Mark Cuban.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple. They're intimidating to him. He doesn't like to be challenged by them. And, Nikki Haley will call him on his nonsense with reproductive rights and how he sees and treats and talks about women. I mean, he just can't have her around. It wouldn't work.
I think Stormy is intelligent. I don't think that's 100%. She's very smart.
Yeah,
Stormy.
He means is like,
Yeah.
but he has
he
power
means on stage.
Yeah,
and stuff
power
with
over.
him.
You got to appreciate the irony of him just being surrounded by really dumb women as he makes his claim. And then, like, the follow up there from Babs, she's like, I think really smart. I would say, like, Stormy Daniels is like Thomas Sowell. Like, she's really, really smart. And they're like, yeah, Stormy Daniels is really smart. Yeah, that's the more fair take. And he agrees with them. I mean, it's just such a nonsense. And obviously, he doesn't know Melania Trump. Actually, she's incredibly brilliant. She speaks multiple languages. It's just because she doesn't give the press anything, but I guess he's just assuming that Melania Trump is dumb and he's intimidated by his own wife, and it's completely untrue. I mean, Ivanka Trump, where does he get off saying that Ivanka Trump is dumb? He worked with Ivanka Trump all throughout his first administration, and he is surrounded by so many women, and he's not intimidated by them. And it's just so ironic that he brings up Nikki Haley, who is just a military-industrial complex stooge. And he brings her up forgetting the fact that who was it that appointed her as the UN ambassador? Oh, the very same person that he says is intimidated by strong, powerful, intelligent women. No, it's just Nikki Haley essentially will do anything for the checks that are being written to her by the military-industrial complex. And she turned her back on the Republican Party, which is why she's become somehow a favorite of the Democratic Party, because she wants to go to war. And somehow the parties seem to have switched. And we seem to be anti-war. Republicans seem to be anti-war. And the Democrats just want to keep blowing things up overseas. I don't understand how it happened, but I think it's pointedly ridiculous for him to make that statement. We'll see how it does. Obviously, the public is not taking kindly to it. It doesn't seem like a smart thing to do if you're trying to earn votes. But again, you do have to appreciate the irony of him truly going on The View to speak about highly intelligent women. You cannot make this stuff up. All right, guys, I want to get into some of your comments. I see some of you guys were commenting about her genealogy earlier and speaking about Nova Scotia and giving me some tidbits about the Harrises. And before I read your comments, I just want to throw it to American financing, because the economy has been a major burden on the average American. Wages are flat, expenses are up, and it is very hard to manage to pay all the bills without using credit cards. So if you're a homeowner and you're frustrated with that cycle, you can make a 10-minute phone call, no obligation phone call, by the way, today to my friends at American Financing. Interest rates are finally coming down, and they're now in the low 5s. So if you're constantly carrying over a credit card balance each and every month with a rate in the 20s, American Financing can show you how to put your hard-earned equity to work and get you out of debt. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving their customers an average of $800 a month. And if you get started today, you may not even have to make next month's mortgage payment. So call today at 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. All right, what do you guys have for me in the comments section? By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, hit subscribe. We are on our race here to 3 million subscribers on YouTube and to 250,000 subscribers on Rumble, which we are happy to be a part of. Okay, let's see. First up, we have Ash Bash. Ash Bash writes, thank you for being an inspiration. My eyes have opened up since having a daughter and son of my own. I pray to God for you and your coworkers for safety. P.S. I love my Candace sweater I purchased. Thank you so much, Ashley. And I think there is something about becoming a parent that makes you so much more fearless. And I know that was just a total sea change for me. And I just decided that I would just give anything to make sure that the America that I grew up in gets to be the same America that my children grew up in. And right now, honestly, if all I have to do is be called every name by the mainstream media, but I am able to get out the truth, and I consider that to be an absolute blessing. Chicago conservative writes, Oscar Brown Harris, possibly stealing someone else's identity of someone who died, made me think of Donald J. Harris, who may have done that, remembering the child who died with the mother named Beryl. Yes, that is why I instantly went down in my head to conspiracy land, because I was like, no. This is weird. This is weird. Like, why have we not been able to secure Donald Harris's birth certificate? Like, we've been able to find everyone's birth certificate. We can't find his birth certificate. And I just think it's weird that Beryl, I think they're just taking identities. I think that Beryl was a real person, that Beryl. And I think she was just a servant, as it said, or a barmaid, whatever they called her. And she had a child named Donald who died, and they knew that information because they were likely controlling the farm that she worked on, whatever it was, and they just took that identity, and that terrifies me. And we know Donald Harris spent a ton of time in Canada. What is up with Canada and the Harrises? We're getting close. We are getting incredibly close. Hey, it's Zach. Rorden writes, Candace, after we get to the bottom of this Kamala genealogy, we need you to deep dive Freemasonry because I'm certain we'd find out shocking revelations about many powerful families. Yes. As I told you guys, when I went into study with some British priests, I just remember one of them looking at me like I was a child, and he was just like, you poor Americans, like you guys know absolutely nothing about history. I mean, you don't even know that it was the Freemasons that established your country. And I was just looking at him like a poor American who knew absolutely nothing. And, I just suddenly decided that now is the time to pour yourself into books and to learn true history, and that it's not my fault that I had a public education. It's not my fault that, Operation Mockingbird has been in effect since I've been born. But now that I know that, it will be my fault if I remain ignorant. And so that's what we do every day, is that we go into this stuff. We're not fearful of being called conspiracy theorists because we're more fearful of being lemmings. That's the truth. Ivy writes, hello, Candace. I've signed the petition for Australia. I've also got my family over there to also sign it. Any way I can help to ensure that you have your voice heard. You are amazing. Love, Emma. Emma, thank you so much. And reminding you that you guys can sign this petition, lifepetitions.com. The Australian government must allow Candace Owens to speak down under. As I told you all, we are contesting them banning me. There are reasons I went through them today more thoroughly, and it's insane. Like, he just copy and pasted. Minister Tony Burke legit just copy and pasted CNN articles that weren't even sourced. It was like Candace said this and not sourced. He didn't even go to a primary source to try to find me saying it. He basically just found every article ever written and said, therefore, it must be true. And so I guess basically half of America, more than half of America, will be banned from Australia because MSNBC recently said that people who support Trump are all Nazis. And so it must be true. And you guys can't go to Australia. This is the kind of logic that we're working with people that are in government and sadly have power. So we will see what happens. But please go and sign that petition if you guys have time. If you're watching this now, it's a little thing that you can do. Okay, thank you. Love you guys forever. Next, Christopher Michaels writes, Candace, the reason for the changing of names is because they are Frankists. Connect the dots and you'll see. Okay, I am aware of the Frankist cult. I've spoken at length about the Frankist cult. It is true that as a part of that was apostasy, which was getting baptized into different faiths. And I am aware that the daughter of Jacob Frank, who led that cult, she wrote what were known as red letters at the beginning of the 19th century from their castle in Offenbach, Germany. And she encouraged all of her cult supporters who believed in pedophilia and believed in apostasy and believed in incest as a sacramental rite. She encouraged them all to get baptized into other faiths to hide that they were Frankist cults. And that has come to my mind. But I mean, there's no proof of that just yet, and I have not been able to. It would just be a very large leap. But I see why that's on your mind, because we're seeing so many name changes and we're seeing so many births and all. It all seems a little bit crazy, and this was a wild time, and there was no question that cult was active at the beginning of the 18th century. Her name was Ava Frank, and she wrote what were known as red letters to all of her supporters, and I've learned about that from Gershom Scholem, who is an Israeli historian. We'll see. We will see. At the moment, though, I am sensing that there is some power behind this and that we are onto something, because we do just keep coming across, the Brits and Freemasonry, and this just can't all be an accident. This just all cannot be an accident. I think it would be a larger conspiracy to believe that it's not a conspiracy, if that makes sense. Jane Roberts writes, Candace, could you please create a short video that we could send to voters regarding Kamala not being black? It's so hard to explain. It's so easy to explain. She ain't black. She ain't black. That's it. But yes, I get what you're saying. I think most people actually know this. I'm seeing so many black people in the comments just going after all of these people like Club Shay Shay, who I call Club Nay Nay, and all of these hosts who are having Kamala on and not pressing her on this. So they are very aware of it, of these findings, and we'll see what happens. Lastly, 123B writes, nice job, Candace. I hope you're doing well. Happy month of the Rosary and happy All Hallows Eve. Thank you so much, you guys. I know everybody's out today about taking their kids trick-or-treating for those of you that celebrate it. We will keep this going. I look forward to reading your emails and seeing what else we can uncover about this Oscar-Harris comparison. Be sure to share this video. We need to get this information out as fast as possible, as we are in the midst of election season. Really just a couple of days now until people head to the polls. Well, people are already headed to the polls, actually, for early voting. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow.